All right. Let's see how this is going. All right, it appears that we are live. So, I just wanted to start a little early. Let me check my levels here. Boopity-bop-bop. Huh. I don't know. I had a computer problem, so I'm on a new box or a different box right now using this older interface that works better with this box. And I can't really tell. This meter, it says it's decibel, but it's not behaving like a decibel. So if I'm too hot or too quiet or anything like that, let me know. And we'll just wait around for some people to show up. I don't know. Got no one yet. But I started a few minutes early, so we will see. So it's been a while since we've done this. I had a computer problem, which is why I'm on this box while the other computer's getting fixed. And on top of that, my son's FRC Worlds competition was this past weekend, so I was out of town and not really ready for, doing live code stuff. Had to prepare for that sort of stuff. So, but I'm back at it today, and looks like we got a couple people watching, so enough of that silly little banter. I guess I'll get started so I'm not wasting their time. So welcome everyone. Okay, good. That's awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Andrew Fountain says it sounds good here. So, but if anyone sees it as too hot or anything like that, let me know. I can adjust it. Okay, so let's see where we left off. I think the last thing that we need to do, let's do a yarn setup here, and then that way we can pull down all of our bits. So the last thing that we did was, I don't know, we got the ability to submit to-dos, things like that, and we're on the last part of the actual tutorial where we're going to leave off. This will be the last part that matches kind of what the tutorial's doing, and then we're going to kind of go out in the weeds and do our own thing. It's just good to have a good comparison for that. So let's just see where we are right now. And there's also, as we get more into this, there's going to be a lot of front-end work and a little bit of model work. So after this one, what I'm going to start doing is do a supplemental episode in the beginning that just does all of our, how would you say, the front-end stuff. And then I'll get it all ready so we can work with the ADTs on our state. So there'll be 2 episodes. So we'll have like for instance, this next one's going to be 0x03 or 3. The one after the one we're doing now will be 0x04, so it'll be the 5th episode. That will have a branch name of 0x04-frontend or something like that, and that'll just have all the front-end code. So if people just want to do the front-end code, they can check that out. If other people don't really care about the front end, they can just go to the next one, which would be the ADTs. So it would be like 0x05-ADTs or something like that. That way we can split it up. Now, also for the front end, one of the things I want to mention is, because there's going to be times where we don't really need to add anything to the front end. So we'll still do front end episodes, but what we'll do is start working on this to make it a little more accessible. So let's, just to kind of show you what I mean. For instance, keyboard navigation, we can't get to any of these selectable items. So that's a no-no. We also don't have any screen reader support or anything like that. So on episodes or on sections where we have very little, how would you say, UI work to do, then we'll focus on working on making it accessible as well. So that way we kind of are teaching accessibility, which is very important, especially in these single page apps. And on top of it, we have the whole ADT thing going on the other episodes. So I don't know, we'll try that. It just seems that I get going and most of the episode is like front end, and a lot of people might be here just for the ADT thing. So I think it makes sense to kind of split it up. That way we can serve both people, and if people want the whole enchilada, well, they can watch both of them. So it's double the pleasure for them, or the pain, or however they view this. So right now we have the ability to say, I don't know, go home. We're able to add, we're able to, you know, mark things off as complete. So that's where we left off. The last thing we need to do is deal with the filters. So part of the app here is they have this filtering stuff. So we're just going to add all of this filtering stuff, but we're going to do it, of course, a little differently. We're not going to really put it in a full footer or anything like that. So one of the things we're going to do is we already have this button in our to-do class. So the first thing we want to do is if we look here and we go components and we go add to-do, we have this button here already. Let's just search for button, who's got my button? And so since we're going to have to use buttons for these, which is really good because it's a focusable item and it's not really doing anything with navigation or anything like that, it makes sense to start abstracting these into like controls, all these different components. So that way we get, especially when we get the accessibility and all that stuff added, it'll make it a lot easier to add different accessible features to different types of controls all in one place without having to think about it all over the place. So we're going to start kind of going down that path. And now that we have a case where 2 buttons are needed, now's a good time to kind of split it off into its own control. So, excuse me. So that's what we're going to do first. So let's get a little folder going, and we are going to call this controls. Why not? Controls is a good one. And by the way, I'm not showing my camera. Sorry if you're going to miss my gesticulations or anything like that. But if you thought it was laggy on the last videos, you should see it on this computer. It is darn near criminal. So I opted not to go with the camera. So just pretend I'm flailing my arms around like an angry monkey or something like that. And we'll all be good. Okay, so in our controls, let's make a control called button.jsx, and this is going to be the bit that houses our button. So since we're pretty much taking it out of this file, let's do a little bit of the old copy-paste action, and we will delete all from there because we don't really need the component. We can do a button inside of a normal container. I'm sorry, a normal stateless function. All right, so let's again search for button, and we're going to do kind of the same sort of stuff. So here we'll do const button is equal to, and this will be a function that's going to take certain things. Right now, the only thing we care about is class name and type, so let's go ahead and bring those in. We'll do class name, and of course we'll do type. And what's the other part we want to do? We want to bring in class name. Import class names because we're going to be building out class names and having the ability. So not only do we want to capture the class name of button, we also want to give the user the ability to bring in their own custom class names. So we also want to change like modifier classes and things like that whenever like the buttons have different states, right? So like if it's disabled, we might want to add some additional styling for a disabled button. In the case of this being a type of submit, we're going to want to do things like maybe make a submit look a little different. So we'll just do that with, goodness gracious, with these class names. So we'll import that from class names. All right, so now we have that, and we'll do some of this, and we'll do const classes. We'll just get that out of the way. Is equal to class name. Class names, and then of course we want a button, right? And here we're going to say if class names, so we'll do one of these class names. This will just append it on there. I'm sorry, class name. And we'll do a to Boolean class name that. So that way, if this comes in as a non-empty string, we should be able to deal with it. All right, so now let's return our button. And here we'll just do this, and we want to bring in the children. Let's never forget about the children. Okay, and then with the children, we will close out our button. Here we also want to bring in the type, and we'll go ahead and set up all the prop types and all that stuff for it after we kind of get a feel for what we're doing. And that's going to be type. Now typically when you have a button, the default class, so let's go for button HTML. The default button is going to be a submit button. So we don't really want that. Oh goodness, I should have went to... anyway, so if we go down to type, where does it say? Well, it might be indifferent. So let's do MDN. All right, now let's look at the button element here. And we will look at name, type, submit. Well, either way, we're going to make type of button the default there. All right, so now let's just export default button. I remember reading it somewhere. I think I might have just seen it pop up at one point, but who knows. We need to bring the children in, so that is here. And now we need to do class name, and that's going to be equal to our classes. All right, hope you're not getting too bored of this. This is just things that, you know, got to do. All right, so here we check class name, we have type, and we have the children. So now let's just do a button. We need to clear off these prop type errors, and we'll do prop type. Okay, and that's going to be equal to, and let's do children. Now children's great because it's going to see just normal text as a text node. So we can do things like prop types.node. Now let's make this as required for now. We may not, actually let's not do that. We'll just set a reasonable default for that. And the other thing we need is class name. And we want class name to actually be a string. So we'll do string, and that should take care of that. And then we'll do type is also a string, so we can just do this. Bada boom, bada bing, go to the end to get rid of that. And now we have that. So now the next thing we need to do is get our defaults in there. And if I'm going too fast or anything, I mean, this is all pretty basic stuff, but if you got any questions or anything, feel free to just throw something in the comments. So we'll do default prop, and here we're going to take type and we'll default that to button. So if nobody provides a type, it's always going to just go to a straight up button. We don't want it to go to, say, a, how would you say? We don't want it to default to a submit or whatever the browser wants it to default to whenever nothing's provided. So we'll always make sure that it is a type of button. All right, now for class name, since we're not requiring this, we'll just do class name. And this is going to be falsy, right? So because this is falsy, that's going to coerce this into a false. So it'll never add the actual class names to it. It'll just end up with something called button if we don't provide class name, if that makes sense. Okay, so moving right along. Now we have class name, we have the type set up here. We have that. All right, so for children, since we're not requiring it, we'll just make it an empty string. For now, and remember, it'll still evaluate as a text node if you pass in a string, right? So this is just basically going to be a blank text node inside of there. All right. So now we have this and this and this. Now we should be able to just bring this in. So let's see how that works. I typically put my components right after like my React and prop types and Basically between bringing stuff in from libraries and bringing stuff in that has to do with like the data connection. So it usually happens someplace around here. And then helper functions would go above this. But I don't know, it's just something I like to do. And then this is going to come from controls. And that's going to be button.jsx. Always got to remember to put in that JSX. So now if we give this a save, let's see if we just get any weird errors or anything like that. Nope, looks like we're all good. So now we should just be able to come down here and replace this with button and button, and we should get the same behavior except a couple more class names added. And it looks like we did. So let's do a quick little inspect, and we should have a button on that. So see what that class names library did? It added this button class and then prefaced it with any override classes that we might want to apply to a button for this specific context. So now that we have that, we need to see kind of what we want inside of here. As far as the classes and bits go. So we can pretty much close all of this stuff out for now, just to save a little bit of screen real estate. Normally I'd have a lot of this stuff open. So now we jump into here and we go to less, and of course the vars, oh, sorry, not vars. We want to go to components, and then we'll add controls here, and we will put button.less. And this will get us a less file. And of course we need to have an all.less so we can include everything in here. And let's just open this, and we'll copy this and put it here. This should actually go up here. All right, and this will be components. And oops, it will not be. It will actually be a button. And that will bring in the button file for this all. And then we need to come over here and do controls all. So this should actually go above this. That way the app or anything can overwrite stuff. And then we just do all. And we'll see if it throws an error. Does not look like it. So now we can add our button stuff. Yay, button stuff. All right, we're still getting our bits. So now let's just add our button class. And with our button class, we need to see what really inside of here is something we want to only apply to all types of buttons. So we'll go into add to do, and we can close this out, and basically it's this stuff. So we want the spacing. We always want the spacing. And what else do we want? We want the spacing. We don't really want the BG blue or the white or the bold, but we definitely want the cursor. So we'll drop the cursor in. The margin left is very specific to this and how it's laid out. Looks like my stream health is failing, so hopefully you guys can hear me just fine. Let me know if things are getting pretty bad. Let's see here. Yeah, well, we'll see how this goes. All right, so we also want a border, but we don't want this there. So let's actually make this border color. And we'll set that to blue. And then over here, we'll do border. And we'll do border is 1 pixel and solid. That's solid, yo. So now that should overwrite that. Let's see what we have so far. And so far it's looking pretty gosh darn good. Here we have all of our padding and all of that. All right, sweet. All right. So we have button there, we have our cursor, all of that. Now, let's see, what's some other things? Border radius, definitely we want that to be inside of a button. And let's put that above this, just to lay it out a little better. And now we have this. So really, we want this to be the default for all of our default buttons, like our submit buttons. We don't really care about it being here. I think we want every submit button for a form to look like this. So let's actually create a modifier here. So we'll create a modifier for button, and we will do this as submit. Okay, so now we'll have this submit, and we'll just jump over here, and we really want all of this to be for submit, right? So anytime we have a submit button, so let's see what that did to things. We'll give this a good old save. Okay, so this definitely took those applications off. So really, we want all of this to actually be part of the submit button too, since that is for that. Then we need to save this. And boom. All right. So I think we don't want this to be that. I think here we want this to be silver as well. So what do we do with the border? We'll do this as silver. So it matches what we're doing on the control. Perfect. And actually, let's do color as silver as well. So if we do color as silver, silver. So if we do color as silver, and we can move this up here, then we don't need to specify that here, and then they just override the border color with that. Don't like that. So we could do color. Let's see what color, darken, 0.2, and we'll do silver. Let's see what that gets us. Okay. What is going on here? Hold on one moment. I got to see. All right, stand by, color functions. Oops. Well, that's a bummer. Color functions. Color operations, darken. Okay, so it takes, that should have worked, right? No? All right, what are you doing wrong there, silly? Stand by. I wonder if this has to be inside of something else. Oh, that's my problem. And we'll do this as 2%. Okay, so let's do it as 20%. And let's do it as 50%. And I bet it's going to be like 35. That's all right. So that looks okay. That'll darken that a little bit. So we can do that, and now we'll make this at silver. And later on, we can move those into their own variables. Oh, thanks. Andrew Fountain said color first. All right, so that makes it stand out a little bit, but the border is gone. So we can move this later on into a variable, but we're just going to leave it like this for now. Most of these can be moved into a variable, so that way we can do theming and whatnot. It'll make it easier for accessibility too, because it gives us one place to adjust colors for different saturations and hues and things to help for people with color perception issues. All right, so we have that. We have our add to do. Everything is fine there. Okay, so now what we need to do is, this is what our default buttons are going to look like. What we need to do now is get back to using our submit. So what we want to do is jump into our controls, And then whenever this is a type of submit, so we'll just do button, and we'll do submit. And that, of course, is going to be type is equal to submit. So now anytime we specify that, it's going to add that submit class to it, and we'll have our modifier. So there, now we have our submit button, and it looks very different than the other buttons, but now we have this wonderful control that we can manage different types of buttons, use it to build things out, and things like that. And the only thing that's actually applied in this class is just the what should be, and that's positioning stuff for the context that it's in. So this here for our add to do button, the class that's being add here, this is what we'll put the overrides in, and this, of course, is our placeholder that does all of our coloring and spacing. Now, one of the things you might want to notice is look how tiny this is. Tiny all the things. It would be really, really nice if the text here and the text on the button actually responded to size changes and matched the font size here. So if we look here, let's just go to Chrome Preferences. We'll jump here. Now, a lot of people with sight problems and things like that, and not really like blind, but people that have a hard time reading smaller text on a high-res monitor, things like that. A normal setting that they might use is use this very large, right? So we have an accessibility problem right now. If we were to look here, notice how everything's changed. The sizes of our text and all that grew, but this is still super tiny, right? This has not changed with it. So for someone that has sight problems, this is a big no-no. So we already have this set up to work with REM units. This whole thing is set up to work with REM, which gives you a, how would you say, a relationship to the root. To whatever the root font size is. And we did that by setting it up. There's many ways you can look, you can look at how this is all set up. Like for instance here, goodness gracious. Well, somewhere along the line, we set this whole thing up. There it is. So on HTML, we set a font size of 62.5%. It's going to let us work in pixels at a default. So at default, it's going to make the default text 16 rem, or 16 pixels, or 1.6 rem, which is typically what the default is. But the problem with these controls is they are not set up to respond to rem. We're just using the defaults. So we need to add something to our actual reset here. So if we jump down here, we want to add our vars. Let's see, not our vars. We want to jump into our reset, which is this. So this is our reset page, which does everything to reset all of our controls and get everything so it behaves the same. So what we want to do is, like for this button, and we'll just start with the button for now. What we want to do is do font size. And we want to set it to, let's see what we have our vars set at. We'll jump into typo here. And it's font size base. So we'll do font size and base. So now if we give this a save, we see that, yay, the button actually matches our size, right? So now this is going to grow and shrink with the way that the font is picked on its default font here. It'll grow and shrink relative to the rest of it. So now we also need to do the same thing for here. So let's update our input. But we don't want to update every single input. Like we can't do, oops. So we can't do like, comma input like that, because there's going to be other inputs that we may or may not want to apply this to. So we're going to be very specific here, and we're going to set something up here where type is equal to text. So anytime that we have a type equal to text, we're also going to apply this. This will just make it easier. Now you'll notice this has not been taken care of yet because we're just using a default. So since we're using the default, which is text, it never adds that text attribute. We need to explicitly add that. So let's go into here and we will jump back into our component, and this is the add to do. So here we'll just look at our input, boom, and we'll look here. So what we need to do is add a QRST. So we need to add a text, or type is equal to text, and then we should be good to go. It's always good for screen readers and things like that for us to be very specific about the types and stuff that we're using. They can make their own inferences on how to handle that control without you having to put too much into it yourself. So it's always good to specify like the type of input you're doing. But now, make things scale. It looks like we can cross this off of our to-do list because it should scale with it. But let's just make sure. If we now jump back into here and we'll go to our recommended and we jump here, let's move this here. We notice that this scales with everything else. So the type here or the size here is the same type as the size here, and we don't need to think about it. This even works for doing normal zoom levels, but zoom levels behave differently than font changes, like when fonts are set up in the beginning. There's certain things that it just can't account for by doing a zoom level. So if you go with the rem settings and working with rems, it makes it a lot easier to keep things very consistent at different font sizes for people that might have visual impairments. So just something to think about. All right, so now that we have that done, now the next thing we need to do is actually start building out our footer. Oh, another thing is I don't really like this right here. This is kind of a little huggy bear for me. So what I want to do is actually adjust app as well so we can make that 800 pixels. So notice, and if you're not familiar with rem units, notice how I have this as 60 rem because of how we're setting our percentage. This translates to whenever the font is at 16 pixels, this translates to 600 pixels. But we want it to translate at default to 800 pixels. So we'll just do that. And now we have a little more breathing room. Just makes it a little nicer, easier to work with. And it gives us some breathing room. Okay, so I know. So sorry about this. We're doing all of this stuff, and this whole thing's supposed to be about ADTs. This is why I'm going to start separating our front-end stuff with the other bits, you know? That way we can do a whole focus on front-end next time, and then a focus on working with the ADTs. The other thing we need to do is let's create a branch here called 0x03. And there. Sorry. Notice that we're still working on the old branch. Alrighty. So now we have that. We have our controls. We have our button. Now we need to set up this filter. So we're going to do kind of the same thing that they did here. We are going to set up this link, which is a component, but we're going to make this an actual control. So let's make that first. So here in controls, we're going to do this, and we're going to add a link.jsx. And this will just be another control that's basically going to wrap the button, right? And just give us a little more control on how we set this button up. There's better ways of doing this, but we're just going to do it this way. Because it's the easiest to follow, and a lot of the literature out there, the older literature supports setting things up by setting up higher order components the way we're going to set them up here. But again, there's better ways of setting up these components to extend each other. But we're just going to deal with this part. All right, so now for this link, we need a couple things. Okay, so let's do const link. And link is going to take in, we can even just look at the stuff they're requiring. We need active, children, and on click. So these are the things that we want. We're just going to mimic that, I guess, for now. Active, children, and on click. And from there, we need to pass this stuff into our button. So the first thing we need to do, and actually we are probably going to want class names in here, but we won't worry about that right now. So we'll do our import, and then this is going to be button. And we're going to bring that in from button.jsx. Okay, so now we can return button. Oh, that's cute. And we do that. Really? One of these days I'm going to get it right. Ridiculous, I say. All right, so here we're going to do button, and we want to, of course, bring in our children after that. And that button's already set up for the children, so we're good there. And we want an onClick to be passed in. And this is going to be onClick. And what's another thing we want? We need type. We don't want this to be submit. And remember, it's just going to default to button. So we don't really need to pass in the type there. It's just going to get us a normal button back. That's the default that we have set up. And then the next thing we need is disabled. And what this does, or dispatch, goodness gracious, disabled. And what disabled's going to do is if it's active, it's going to be disabled. So now let's do our link dot prop types. And of course, we're going to have to expose this disabled and onClick because it's going to be needed for button. We don't have these attributes taken care of there, but we'll just get this component taken care of first and just deal with it when it happens. All right, so now we'll do our link prop types. And here, one of the things I want to bring to your attention is what we could have done is did a dot spread operator or a object operator, an object spread operator on here. But I prefer to be very explicit. It makes it easier. It makes it quicker to write. But later on, whenever you need to support this, it can get very confusing without having to do a lot of logging or inspecting or things like that to figure out what's actually getting passed into things. So I tend to stay away from the spread operator. Just a personal thing. So here we're going to do prop types dot func. And we're not going to make this required. And the reason why is we're going to do link dot default. There's no reason to make that a requirement. Maybe we don't want to click to do anything. Maybe we just need a placeholder to look nice or something like that. So we'll do default props is equal to, and here we'll do onClick. And that's going to be function.prototype, which gives us back a basically a unit. It's a function that will take anything and always give you back undefined. And it basically provides unit for us. So it's basically a no-op is what I'm trying to say. Those are the words I'm trying to say. All right, so now that we have this, we have add to do. We want button. And let's copy this over. And we may not need class names right now. We are going to have to do some more work here. So we'll just leave that open. And now we have our onClick. And for disabled, we want, active, we want this to be a bool. So here we'll do active. And I know you can get away with sending, Boolean props and things like that. But again, I like it to be very explicit. So here we'll do active. And we will delete to the end of this. And we will, and we'll go here and say bool and put one of these on. And then we're good. Okay, the same sort of thing with children is this will take care of a node list. It'll take care of nodes and it'll take care of strings for us. We'll just do node. And I don't know if we need to require it really, so let's not. Children. And we'll have children be what I like to call just an empty string. So that way if it's not provided. Okay, so now we have everything being passed in. We got all of that. We also need to export default, and we'll export default link. So this will get us our link. And basically, all we're really doing here is we're mapping an on-click to an on-click, and we're really adding this disabled feature. Everything else is going to follow through down to our submit. But we may put a class name on here for disabled and things like that. So again, by breaking things up in these components, it makes it easier for accessibility for you to address specific concerns at the control level, right? So all of this stuff may seem like a lot of boilerplate, but later on as we start adding accessibility, boy oh boy, are we going to appreciate that these little cutesy things are there for us. And the way that this code is separated. It's going to help us in many ways, so I can't really list all of them now. So class name children should actually be above here. And type should definitely be down here. And we'll get rid of this. Type class name child. So that's all laid out just fine. This is laid out just fine. So now we have a link. So let's do something with this link. So let's make a component here, and we'll call this filters. And this is just basically going to be our filters. And let's actually make it filters list. But then that says it's an LI. Let's just stick with filters for now. We can always go back and change it. None of this is written in stone, right? So we'll come here and let's open filters. And filters, we're going to have not really anything that we need to prop type on. It's basically just going to be a container that's going to bring in, it'll bring in filtered links before, like we're going to add something like a connected up to our Redux state. But for now, we're just to see what these links look like all laid out. We're just going to import controls and link.jsx. So we'll bring that into filters. And here, let's just do a simple div. Typically, I'd want to do this as an LI or a UL with an LI, but we'll just do it this way for now. Why not, right? Okay, we can always, again, go back and change it when we start adding accessibility. Again, it comes more down to semantics and how screen readers are going to be able to make decisions on the semantics of the HTML around there. But for now, this will do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. All right, so for here, let's just do link, and we should actually, okay. So here we'll do link, and we'll call this one first, and we'll do link like that, and do some of that. Let me clear up some of this. Export default, and that's going to be filters. All right. Okay, so we have that, and we'll call this second, and we'll call this third. All right. So now we have those filters. We want to jump into app.jsx, I believe, and we want this filter list, yep, to go under here. So we'll call this filters, and here we'll bring in filters from filters. Oh boy, that was fun. All right, let's see how many errors we have. Oh, we have no errors and everything's all laid out. So now this gets us our first, second, and third. Let's see what happens whenever one of these is disabled. We'll just see what disabled looks like. Active. And we'll make that equal to true. Okay. So now we have that. And it looks like it did nothing. Nothing for us. And that's because we didn't add the disabled and stuff for it to get pushed down into buttons. Duh. All right, so see, that's a good little smoke test. Now we know that we need to get this stuff in here. So now we want to do disabled, so that will come under here, and we'll do disabled. And what's the other thing we need? On click. All right, so now we have on click, we have disabled. Before we get the prop types in there, let's just see. Disabled is equal to disabled. All right, we have that in there. And let's just put on click in. On click is equal to on click. And boom. Okay. So we notice we are going to need a class name here because we don't want this pointer to point up, right? So we need to add disabled. So what we want to do is we'll do button and we'll go disabled. D, and here we will do disabled. Now I know it is falsy and things like that, but let's add some defaults here. So we'll go disabled, and we'll just put this in as false. And on our type here, we'll also do disabled, and this will be a bool. And again, it's not required because we have a reasonable default there. Fun, 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 right? Well, maybe. I don't know if it's fun. Okay. So now we have that. We have that. We notice that it is putting on this button disabled. So let's go ahead and update our... Oops. Let's go ahead and update our button class here. And here we'll do disabled. And that's just one of these. And then we do a little bit of this and say cursor initial. I don't think that's right. And it's not. All right, I always forget what the standard, so let's do cursor. If anybody knows the cursor types. All right, so we have help, wait, crosshair, okay, that's nice. Not allowed, grab. All right, so we want it to be auto, maybe? Probably not, but oh, yep, that's what we want. So that way it goes along with whatever the disabled is for the browser. But so because we have the disabled on here, it's going to pick the auto for it. And actually, I wonder... No. All right. And you know what? I know it said auto, but let's be very explicit about it. Let's see here. Bop, 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 bop. All right, there's grab, there's that. General is default. All right, so let's just do default then. Although maybe auto would have been better. All right, so that's fine. And we may want to put some specific classes on these. So anyway, anytime we have a disabled button, like say we were to go here, and for some reason this has disabled. Boom. Oh, it's not going to put the class on there. Oh, you know what? We should actually, I don't know. There might be a better way to do this, but I'm committed to this, so let's just do it this way for now. There must be, I know there's a better way. I know what it is too. We should really just address button, but I want to address it with the classes, just to make it a little easier and give us a little more control over that. Okay, so now we have our disabled. We have that there. Now we want to add very specific classes to this filter thing. Okay, so here let's do class name, and we'll do class name is equal to, and we'll just call this filters. Okay. All right, so now we have our filters class. So here, let's just jump into this, and we'll do less. And let's do components and madd filters dot less. I know, so much fun, huh? So filters. And with filters, let's do a width of 50%. 50%. And we're going to do a flex of our position flex or display flex, right? Okay, so then we do our display flex, go to the end, and add one of these. And let's see here. With 50%, and then we want to go margin, and we'll do a margin of 0 auto, which will center it ever so nicely. Okay, well, maybe not. Okay, let's see what we got wrong here. Filters. Oh, we need to actually include this. So we go here, and filters is here underneath to do. Now, I try to do some of the things, how would you say, alphabetical order, but here cascading matters. So I usually put these in order of hierarchy and how they should be included. Okay, and gotta love that less. Okay, so now we have this centered here. All right, now we may also want to add a class to these, which, I mean, we do. I know we do. All right, so here we want to do class name. Nope, class name comes after children. And here we'll just do and we don't really have anything special for this link right now, so we're not going to do the cool little let's include classes, things like that. We're just going to marshal class name. All right, so now what we want to do is actually set this up. Now, because if we did move this into the link, then we don't have to put it for every single link, right? Like there would be no reason to put this together for every single one. So if this link list, need to think about this for a second. Let's just see what it looks like here. It's going to be pretty ugly, I can already tell. All right, just to keep this going, let's do it this way. Yeah, but we'll probably go and refactor this later. So here we'll do filters. And this will be link. Okay, and then we'll add the same thing here. And here. Okay, so now we'll have filters link, we'll have all of that. So what we want to do now, you might notice that this is kind of off center, right? So see how we have all of this space? What we may want to do is actually set something up to where, So if we do filters and we do this and we do link, we want this to be flex1. Okay, and what this is going to do is just flex everything so it's distributed evenly, right? So now we have that. All of this is working. And we got all of our stuff put on there. So even though it's a button, it now has our filters link and all of that great stuff. Okay, so there's our buttons. Now let's add some functionality to them to actually work. Again, we'll probably go back, refactor a lot of this. No big whoop right now. Okay, we should also, now that we have class name in here, we want to class name, and this is going to be a string. We're also not going to require it. All right, we'll see how that goes. All right, so this has its class name anyway. We'll have to play around with that and see what happens with things that don't have a class name. All right, cool. Okay, finally, we can start getting on to hooking this thing up, right? So now's the time on Sprockets when we dance. So it looks like we have all of our stuff. Let's just run a yarn lint and just make sure that we have everything. Okay, so we're good there. Like, for instance, if we didn't have something here, like, say, children inside of here, and we run this, it, of course, is going to give us an error. No, it didn't. So we have a problem. That needs to actually work, and it is not. So, sorry about this. I'm wondering why it's not working. Okay, so let's look at package.json and we'll look at lint. Okay. Huh. Oh, man. All right, let me write this down. I need to fix this. All right, I need to fix this linter. This is bad news bears. All right, never mind. Our other linters, so maybe there's errors going on. I don't know. I need to fix that later. This is not the time to be fixing things like that. It's time to code. All right. So we have our link. We have all of that. There's our children's. Oh, man, that really bums me out about that. Okay. So what we really want to do now is we need to hook this up. So even though we did something a little different here, we're pretty much going to follow this filter link, but we'll do that. Okay, so here we have this. I can hide those, and we will do filter link.jsx. Okay, and this is just going to be our little container here. So we'll jump over here, GG, bring this up, and paste that in, and we'll do const filter link. And that, of course, is going to take, we'll pretty much match the stuff they're doing here. Ah, that's right. So what we need to do is bring in connect. So let's awk and do connect, and we'll do that on source. And we see add to do has one of those. We'll just close that for now. And we'll close that for now and open add to do. And we just bring this in, throw that in. And we'll do const map props. And this will be our prop mapper. And I think it is state and own. So this will get us our state and our own props. And what we want to do here is return an object that matches that. And what are the things we need? Okay, I don't need this anymore. What are the things we need on controls? We need link. Okay, also, if you guys have any questions at all, I know we're an hour into this, and it's mostly been front end, but this is all pretty much, I don't know, normal React stuff, I guess. And again, we're doing a lot of extra work here to kind of lay the foundation for, we could have just thrown up a real simple form, but we're laying the foundation to provide proper accessibility. So that's why we're creating these components and these strange hierarchies here. So we have state, and what do we want to do with this state? Let's see. So we need to bring in link as well. And we'll bring that in from controls, and that's going to be link.jsx. Okay, so now we have our link, and we'll do export default, and this is going to be connect and map props, and we'll have map dispatch. And here we're going to do link. So now this will hook it up to our little connection. We'll do one of these, and we'll call this defaults or dispatch. And this is going to be dispatch and own. Oops. Dispatch and own. Okay. So now we have all of our dispatches. So the thing we need to, what's going to be our dispatch is this on click. So we need to match on click. So we'll do on click, and on click is going to be a function for now that we'll just console.log, and this is going to be, we'll just do called just so we know that it's mapping. And then here we want to do active, so the only time that we map active is going to be, when are we going to map active, or what is that going to map to, is going to be state dot filter is equal to own dot filter. Okay, so we're going to add something to our state called selective filter, and that's going to take care of this active. The children will be provided, class name will be provided, and then on click will be provided by this dispatch. So we'll be able to dispatch things out. This is an on click, so it's a side effect function. We shouldn't return the undefined that comes from that. Okay, so now we have that in place. So let's change, this is button, that's link. So let's change this to not filter link. So for filters, we want to bring in filter link from filter link. Okay. And this, of course, will be filter link. And we'll do the same thing here for filter link. Get rid of this. Oh, that was stupid. Filter, and then we do the same thing there. Okay, so now these should all come back if there's no errors, which there'll probably be errors. Oh, there wasn't. So these should all be undefined because, or these all should be broken because undefined is equal to undefined. So if we were to go into here and put filter, is equal to that, we'll just say first. Okay, second. and third. Oops. Third. Okay, so now there we go. Okay, so now they are selectable. All right. We are finally done with this UI UX work. We now have everything we need to actually, everything's hooked up. We now just need to make our actions and take care of business. So, before I go on to taking care of business, are there any questions or anything? I'll wait a couple minutes while I take a sip and wait for the feed to catch up. Are there any questions about the front end stuff that we've been doing? Now would be a great time to ask. Oh, what a day. All right. I think we're good. Nothing coming in from the chat. Okay. So now we have all this. We have our little filters. We got everything happening the way we want it to happen. Now it's time to build some actions. So now we're going to start building out our data. So we'll jump into this and then we'll jump into data. And let's go ahead and actually let's open this in its own tab. So we'll go JS, we'll do data. And we're going to need a new space, which means we're going to need some new models, which means we're going to need a couple other things. So let's see here. So for our reducer, let's see what they put as their reducer. I may or may not like it. Naming is hard, you know? Could be very, very hard indeed. So if we look at this, we have a visibility filter. And let's see what actions they have. These are their action creators for that. And we have set visibility. And we're exporting something called visibility filters. Okay. So what are they calling that to do? So we're going to skip that. And we're going to call this filter dot to do. Or .js. So if we were to have anything else that we're filtering on, which we probably will, like, so let's call this filter task, filter to-dos. No, because we also want it, let's see here. All right, we'll just do filter to-dos, and let's look and see what we did with to-do. So here we have all of that set up. So we want to bring in not just from there, but we want to bring in this. Sorry about that. Refresh, do this. And we want to bring in this because we want to create a reducer and we want to create the other stuff. So now we need to bring in our types. So they're putting these actions down as an object. I don't really know about that. I don't really know about that. So let's see here. All right. Because we still need to know these action names. Or do we? Do we really need to know these action names? I don't think we do. Because I don't like how, or I may or may not like it. Ooh, who knows? Let's see how they're doing this. Because these really should just be action creators, you know? And we should have our own action creators. Let's see how they did this. Are we going to stray too far from the path? I hope we don't. But this gives the filter, and we need to check to see what the filter is. I think we could get rid of all of this filter stuff here. I think we could get rid of all this filter stuff here. Yeah, and then instead of doing this, but then again, we need to bring these in. We need to bring these in. Okay. Okay. We need to bring him in. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to export. We are going to do the actual like show hidden, show whatever. We're going to do those as actions, but we're still going to export these filters. So we're going to call these filters. And we'll do const. I don't know. I should have thought this through before I willy-nilly just jumped into it. Okay, so now we'll have our filters, and I need to turn that on there. And this is where we're going to have our actual, so we'll have these, because I'd much rather do this way. And what do they call them? Let's see what they call them. Show all. All right, so we'll do a show all, and that's going to of course be show all, and this is going to be show completed and show active. All right, so we'll match those. Show complete. Competed. That's cute. And we'll do the same thing here. Show completed. And this will be active. All right. So now what we need to do is just put all these, we'll export them in here, show complete and show active. So now we can just pull those off whenever we want the filters for checking to see how we're going to do our to-dos. All right, so we have those filters. Now we need to have actions. We got to create our actual actions here. And this will basically just be this, and we will say show all to-dos. Okay, and that's going to be show all. And this is going to be show D2T completed. And this will be show completed. And same sort of thing here, except this is going to be show, let's see here. And we could probably take the on-click out of this now that I'm thinking about it. Active. So yeah, we'll rearrange this a little bit so the actions are used in other places. All right, oops. Of course I picked the one. There we go. All right, so now we just need to do our reducer, which again is just setting this up. But before we do the reducer, we need to actually create our model. So we'll have something called filter to-dos, and that will be .js inside of here. Okay, and here we will need to pretty much mimic a lot of the stuff that this is doing. Okay, so for this, we're really going to only have one thing that will select what the filter type is. Oh, that's a real bummer. There's a coupling that's going to happen here, or is there? there is not. All right, so what we want is we want to create a function. So and of course we need to always return state. So we're going to bring state in, and we're going to bring in, we don't need the helpers, but we do need this. All right. So, and we may not need to do the get or the modify. We probably just want to do the modify. And here, we're probably going to bring in, anyway. So what we want to do is export a function that's going to be and this will be update to do filter or set to do filter. Okay, and this is just going to be a function that's going to return a state, but we need to get something in, so we need to set this to a very specific thing. So we're going to call this filter, and we're just going to do a modify here, which will allow us to modify the state. And let's see, what would be the best way to do this? So this commit actually does an ASOC. So we could probably do an ASOC of, yeah, so we could probably do this. Okay, so we'll do our ASOC, and we want this to be, what did we call it over here? Just to keep the names the same, to protect the innocent, selected filter. So we're going to change this and make this to do, and actually, because we are going to need to set this, we're still going to need to put the filter in there. I don't know, we'll have to see how this plays out. So we'll call this to do filter. Okay. And here we're going to associate to do filter, and we're going to associate it to filter. So whatever that filter is, we're just going to run by it, and we're basically, I need ASOC here, so we'll bring ASOC or association. Okay. So really that's all we need to do for this. No need to change anything. We don't need to do any chaining or anything like that. All we're going to do is define something that will take whatever filter you pass in, and then it's going to associate that object to this to do filter. All right. So now let's, even before we do that, let's get some default stuff in here. Actually, let's put this here. Where's reducers? There's store. So we're going to do this. And from our default data, we want to set, this is a little disgusting, but that's okay. So we're going to grab filters. And we're going to grab that from reducers dot filter to do's. Okay. And that should get that in. And here we're just going to do filters or filter to do. And we're going to set that to filters dot what's a good thing to do? Show all. Okay, and we'll grab that off of filters. Okay, and then this just becomes show all. Okay. All right, so now let's check our state. We probably have all kinds of errors in there because why not, right? Oh, thank you. Yeah, crocks is fun. All right, what is the thing I'm looking at? We want to go to React. Nope, Redux. Goodness gracious. I want to go to Redux. Come on, Redux. There we go. All right. So let's look at our initial state. All right, so that has the string of show all, so we know that our filter to-dos are there. So now that we have show all being there, we need to make sure that it gets passed in and does its little checky poo. Okay, so now let's jump back over to filters. And here we need to bring in import filters, and we'll bring that in from where are we bringing that in from? We want to bring that in from data dot filters or dot reducers dot filter to do's. Okay, and just to make sure we have it, let's just console.cry filters. And do we not have filter links set up? Hold on, stand by. Oh, yeah, we have it. We have it. All right, so that's in there. This has a link. It's filter first. Blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know why that... There we go. Okay, so we do have our filters. So this is going to be... show all, show active, show completed. Okay, and we're going to bring these in from filters. Okay, so here we do the same thing. Now we just do show all, and we do show completed. And we do show active. And then we come over here and we do active. Of course it does. Okay, so now we have the filter, we have that. And that's supposed to be to-do filter. So do we have to-do filter actually coming in? Oh, that's not what I want. Tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Come on. Come on, Redux. Don't be a fool. Thank you. All right, so now let's look at our state. Oh, it's filter to-dos. That's not what we want. Okay. All right, so now since all is selected, or since all is having that little problem, we want it to Like right now, it's disabled because we have all selected. So now that we have it working on the default, we now need to, so if we were to change that or whatever, we now need to set up our action to actually do our dispatch here. So let's set the action up. Okay. So now on click, we want to actually dispatch okay. Oh yeah, we need to set the reducer up again. All right, so now inside of the reducer, we need to take this, and I think we have everything we need. What do we need to do? Let's take the to-do. And this is, of course, going to be set to-do filter. Okay, so now we need to create action, show all. Okay, now we need to actually create this. And this, of course, is going to be show all. And we don't really want this. This isn't what we want. So sorry. Okay. So we are still going to have the filters out there. But what we want this to do is, since it's going to take this filter, we really want an action to be, my bad, update to-dos. And what do we have this? Set to-do filter. So this will be update to-do filter. All right, so because of the naming conflict here, we're going to do set filter. And here we're going to do D2F and make this set filter. Because set to do filter makes more sense out here. Okay. That's why it was set up that way, which makes more sense. Okay, and this will be set to do filter. Okay, now we're all good in the hood. So with this, what we want is set filter. Okay, and we want to export default reducer. Okay, so now we have that reducer there. We now need to go into our index and bring that in. And this is going to be filter to-dos. And this will be filter to-dos. Okay, and now we want to combine that with filter to-dos. So now we should have the ability, if there's no errors, to start dispatching these. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, let's see if we can actually start dispatching. This still will do the set filter. This will bring set filter in from models, filter to-dos. Okay. And that will be that. That is super nice. Okay, no errors or anything going on. We're still there. Now we just need to hook it up. So sorry about this. I spent all that time playing with the other bits. Okay. So, take a sip here. Next thing we want to do is have the onClick take care of all the stuff for us. So we still need to bring in the show all, show active, all of this things because we need that to be the actual filter. So here we're going to do one of these, and we'll replace with that. And we will replace with this and just repeat that action for these. All right. So now that should get that in. We have our little thing saying that it's bad enough. So one of the things we can do, and maybe we won't get into it now, it depends how much time we have left, is we can create a mapping that just has this as the key. Whatever this value is the key, and then this is the value. And we can actually just map over that and build these out in one simple mapping. But we don't really need to deal with that right now. Yeah, because these are all going to stay in order for now. All right, so I need to fix this. See, you start rushing and things just get cray. All right, so that gives us our filter. That gives us that. So what we want to do is check to see if state to do filter. So this is still good. We know that works. And now what we want to do is we want to dispatch our actions. So let's see an example of dispatch, and we'll look in source, and we'll have something like that inside of to-do list or add to do. Okay. Components, add to do, and let's look for dispatch, and there it is. All right, so now we need to have our action dispatcher, which is going to come in from, so we need filters, and we need, what was it? Set filter. Okay. And that's not where we need it. Goodness gracious. We need it over here. Okay, so there's our control. There's that. This will bring in filters. This is in components, so that's still valid. That's still valid. All right, so now, do we need filter here? No, we don't. We don't need to reference it. So here we just bring in, what, set filter? No. We bring in update to do filter. Okay. Okay. And now, finally, goodness gracious, golly gee willikers. So we want to dispatch update to do filter passing own filter. Okay. And let's see what happened with that dispatch. Probably bad things because I didn't see anything happen. Why is this doing this to me, Redux? Are you appearing outside? Do I have this detached or something? Nope, doesn't look like it. All right. Redux, again, not picking it up for some reason. All right, so we set to do filter. And let's see, this is our actions. That is show completed. So now let's look at our state. And it should be show completed. So, oh, active. Oh, yeah, it's working. All right. So it would be nice if we had some sort of indication that it was working, like maybe graying the button out or something like that. So let's do that real quick. But anyway, I mean, that's the ADT hookup. It's basically the same thing as that, except, I don't know. We did the management, so just in doing that, this was what we did to modify the state. We just say modify to do filter, pass in the filter. Most of it is getting it hooked up. You know, when you build a new one. When you start adding to them, it's very easy. But when you build a new one, you gotta... And I made a mistake of doing this a little differently. But anyway, or wanting to do it a little differently. So before we do that, let's now jump into less. And for components, controls, let's do filters. So I can already tell that this is going to be silly. Let's see if we actually add a class here. So we do have button disabled. So let's do a filters link disabled. Okay. So here we'll do this. Disabled. And from there, let's just do background color. And we will make it red for now. Okay. And then we just jump here. And this will give us disabled stuff specifically for our problem in the context of this. So now we just jump into here and we do filter link. All right, so for filter link, all right. So where is active? So active is in here. All right, so this is our map props. This is all of that. It would be really, really nice if the disabled could act specifically on this filters, but we have no access to that there. Okay. We will, again, instead of playing with this, we're going to need to do a little bit of refactoring around that. Think you're so clever sometimes, don't you, Ian? All right, so... Oh, what we could do... But that's going to override it. So we don't want to get too silly. And we don't need this React in here. No need to have all of that. All right, so what we're going to do for now is we're just going to do something on the button, but this is not the solution. But it's good for what we have now. All right, so with our disabled, we're now going to do background color, and we'll do color is red. And we want to use our variable. Okay. So there, that shows you which one the active is. But basically, we got that working. Everything runs through there. No big whoop. Let's actually make color white. And let's make this BG red. Okay. All right. Nope. There we go. Nope. There we go. Okay. So now we got our red and we got that being white. I really don't like the making of that go away. We'll have to deal with that because you'll notice there's a little flash whenever the bit goes away there. So we'll need to deal with that. Let's also add a little space or a little bit of breathing room to these. You know what? This is fine for now. So now let's just get our filtering logic in, just so we can wrap this up and call it a night. We're already going on 140, and I wanted this to be kind of short, but oh well, things happen, right? Okay, so what we want to do now is we need to have our actual filters. Let's see, our to-do list. Does this using Connect? It sure the heck is. So what we want this to do, and let's see what they're doing here. They have their little to-do list. There's their to-do. So this is where they actually hook it up for their visible to-do list. So we may want to create a little component or something along those lines to handle this. So this is nice, this little filter. All right, so instead of doing it like that, let's see what we have here. So we have our connect, we have that. The other thing I guess we want to do is map our state in as, what is it, to-do filters. Yep. So we want to get to-do filter and we'll map in to-do filter. Okay, maybe that could be selected filter or something along those lines. So here we do to-do filter. Okay, so now all we really need to do I mean, we could filter, we could do things like that. So for map state, if we bring in our own, this isn't going to be our own though. Okay. So here what we could do is to-dos, and then we can do filter. Okay, just one moment here. We're going to come up with a neat little point-free way of doing this, or maybe not, who knows. No need to get all excited here. Let's just do it real simply, and then we can get cutesy later. All right, so this is just going to be to-dos. All right, so we'll make a function to do the filtering here. And this will take in our to-dos. And return to-dos dot filter. We could do cool things with like maybes and stuff to make sure that it's an array, blah, 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 but whatever. So then we'll do filter. And here, this will be our filter function. And actually, let's do this. We'll do their same... Okay. You know what I really don't like about this filter, though, is every single time that we come in, we're switching against whatever the active is, and it's always going to be the same. You know what? We'll just do this. There's much better ways of doing this. Yeah, that's what we'll do. That's how they're doing it, so never mind. That's much better. I see what they're doing there. So now we just do to-dos dot filter, and now we can do x prop equals completed okay, and then we'll bring in prop equals from see if it finds it. Good. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to check to see if prop on all these equal. So we're going to take in all the to-dos, and if, so what else can we do? All right, so now we can get rid of this. Well, I guess either way, it doesn't matter. We'll make this a better statement later. And this should be false. And this should be true. And show completed. And then we do return. And otherwise, we just return to-dos. All right, so now we have our silly little filter to-dos. So here we take our to-dos. Sorry about that. And this then becomes filter to-dos, to-do filter to-dos. And there's a much better point-free-ish way to take care of this. Let's see how many errors that gives us. Okay, there's completed, there's active, completed, active, boom, boom, boom. So now we can say, so nice. And of course, that's not shown. So great. And that's not shown, but if we go to active, there's so nice and so great. These go away, that goes away, and there we go. So, I mean, that's that. Pretty much all I got. Sorry it took 2 hours. I was hoping this would take 1 hour and 15 at the most. Sorry about that. I will get a little better with this, I'm sure. So we're going to leave this as is when we have nothing completed. We have a lot of refactoring we can do, so that'll be fun. Like, there's much better ways to take care of like what we just did. Don't need to do filter here. And since we don't need to do filter there, we really do not need to map the state because that state is dependent on the other state. So that will take care of that calculation for us. And we're still good there. Okay, so now we've just finished up the app to the way that they had it specified. We have a few other things that we want to get in. So we're going to try to get that stuff in. Let's get rid of this and see what this looks like. Okay. All right, yeah, we definitely need to fix up this. We have to get focus on things. All right, but yeah. So the next time we're going to start cleaning all this up. We will take advantage of this, these new buttons. So next time is basically just going to be a cleanup. Some of this code we need to actually move into our processing, into the model. And there's other little things we can clean up as far as CSS and things like that go. We're also going to add icons and little bits like that. And I will be around next Tuesday at 6:30. So if you're curious, that's when we're going to start splitting it up. So that next Tuesday at 6:30, that's when we're going to be doing all front-end stuff. And that should only take about 45 minutes. Then the next one after that for 0x04 is going to be the ADT portion of that. So I'll keep you guys posted on schedules for that. And yeah. That's all I got. Do you have any questions or anything? I know there's really only 3 people watching, but of those 3. Alrighty. Well, I guess I'm going to call this then. Thank you guys so much, or thank you all for stopping by and checking it out. Yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them downstairs in the comment section. I'll be able to address them. And hopefully I'll have this code up for your consumption here in a little bit. It'll be on the normal GitHub link. And it'll be against branch 0x03. So let's see what we got here. A lot of files, a lot of changes. So yeah, this is what we're cooking with right now. So it should be fun. A lot of new additions. Cool. Andrew, yeah, he asked, do you usually do this every Tuesday? Yes, I do. every Tuesday at 6:30 Pacific time. And yeah, again, we're just going to keep grinding on this, and we're going to start making this thing our own. We'll be able to add descriptions and lists and things like that to these. Maybe also, or not maybe, but a labeling system as well. So we should be able to sort and filter by a label, which will also fall into here, but probably with the drop down. And again, as far as the UI UX stuff goes, we're going to start working on making this accessible. So we're going to start with keyboard nav, successful keyboard nav versus mouse movements. And then we're going to move on to screen reader stuff, and then we'll start as we go adapting to colors and things like that. Just so we can all see what it looks like to do accessibility, responsible accessibility with controls like these for single page apps and whatnot. So, all right, well, that's all I have. I hope you guys have, or I hope you all have very, very good evening, and I will talk at you later.